want you guys to tell me about the weirdest or craziest dream you ever had.
I definitely remember as a kid, I had this reoccurring dream that like there was a clown that was like jumping my little brother.
What's up, my people? We're checking in today with another episode of Inside the Vibe. We got a special show for y'all today to kind of commemorate the ending of 2024. It's been an interesting edition in the season of America, the series of America. I got some familiar faces with me. My boy Hantz, Shek Dash, all lowercase. Don't mess that up. And we have a new addition to the show, but not really new, more so behind the scenes, but finally got her to sit on the couch with us. And I give you Quinn B, producer, graphic designer, curator, web designer, DJ, music purist, I would just say, just all around creative Renaissance woman.
Oh, thanks. Wow. Okay.
That was good.
That was very nice. Thank you.
So we have quite a few things we want to discuss today, just to kind of try to encapsulate everything that's happened this year. But before we get to that, we're going to start off with our Set the Flow segment. You know, it's not Inside the Vibe without it. And I'm Yoru, and we're going to get to it. So what I have today for you guys is I want you guys to tell me about the weirdest or craziest dream you ever had. And to get the juices flowing, I'll give y'all some time to think. I'm going to start. So I believe it was this year. I have a habit of falling asleep with the TV on, right? I just can't really have an active brain. It just tends to happen. So I was watching this show on Netflix called, I think it's Top 100 or 1000. It's based in Asia, I believe. And it takes like the top most fittest people in the entire country or continent. So, okay, I'm not sure where it's based, but I just know that's the premise of it. So the top 100 most fit people, and this could be rock stars, skaters, wrestlers, military people, policemen, all walks of life. And it was interesting because they're doing their mud wrestling. They're having bouts to kind of figure out who's the most fittest, right? The fittest of them all. And I'm watching it, and it's 3 a.m., and I fall asleep. And so I wake up, but I'm half awake, and my hands are near my sides, and I know I'm awake because I hear something. I feel a presence over my face. So it feels like if you ever have for my animal lovers out there, if you ever had an animal near your face, like a dog, a cat, whatever a pet you may have, there's a energy you feel almost like they're breathing, they're panting. And that's what I felt. But the gag is I don't have any pets. So I'm feeling this, it's like 3, 4 a.m., and in my head, I'm just like, okay, I have two options. I feel like whatever this is, the moment I open my eyes, it's going to attack me. So I can either fake play sleep or I can, prepare to meet my maker. So I essentially just kept acting like I was asleep because I just didn't feel like that. The other option was the best for me. And then after that, I woke up, jumped out of bed maybe 10 minutes later, and I'm looking for this dog. I'm like, because I feel like a dog. I'm like, where's this dog? Where's this wolf? I'm looking under my bed. I'm throwing my covers around. And then I just go back to sleep, but I'm on edge the entire night. So I wake up, that's like 4 a.m. Now it's like 9 a.m. And then I start playing the show again, and I hear the same noise. And then it clicks on me. I was in sleep paralysis or paralysis, whatever they call it. And what I was hearing was my brain was registering I was awake. But because I wasn't fully awake, it had to make sense of the sounds I was hearing. And safe to say I was terrified for like a month or two. But I'm here now. So
that's scary.
Yeah.
Wait, that's not a fun dream.
I didn't say it was fun. I just said.
Oh, okay. I thought you were doing like fun dreams.
It could be fun, but I don't dream a lot. So that was the last dream I had. So I had to go with what I remembered.
Dang.
Dreams. No,
Who's next?
I had a dream that I was like a drug kingpin, and my front was that I owned a roller rink, like a skating rink.
You're not a
Okay.
roll down check.
I don't know why. Like
South Jersey style.
it was a good one. It was a good front. Like it was an eventful dream. Like
What were you selling?
It was like I don't know what I was selling. I just knew that I was selling something and it was illegal. Like you could tell. Like the color grading of the dream just had that.
Oh my god.
You
So
could
how
tell
did
it
you
was-
how did you realize it was a dream? Like, what about it was like, this is not reminding?
I just don't do those things.
Oh, okay.
I don't skate or sell drugs.
Did
so.
you hit like a ghost? Like, did you go to like the top of the skating ring and like look down?
did.
I'm sure I did. I'm sure I did. I can't quite think back to every little thing I was doing, but if I had to guess, probably.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I definitely remember as a kid, I had this reoccurring dream that like there was a clown that was like jumping my little brother, and I just couldn't do anything in the dream. And it was like it was literally for like a whole week, and I was like, "Bro, what is this?" And that just like freaked me out.
He was trashing your little brother.
Yeah, like it was crazy. But like in the dream, I couldn't move, so I was like,
Wow.
"This is
So you was just seeing your other brother like uppercut.
yeah." Like,
That's nuts.
It's just crazy.
Did it bring y'all closer in real life?
I didn't tell him about that. I
So you
feel like-
didn't check on him like extra that week? Like,
Oh no! I like when I woke up, I'm like he's like right there because we shared a room. But,
Okay.
like I'm like, all right, he's okay. But like
That's hilarious.
that's just weird.
Not at that time, but I know.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
hilarious
yeah.
now.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's nuts. Okay.
yeah.
So did you like develop a fear of clowns? Did you have that prior to? Or?
I don't think I have a fear of clowns, but I feel like in real life I don't encounter. I don't be where clowns be at. So.
I don't either. I've never really
I know
seen
that's right.
a clown in like real time aside from a movie.
Yeah,
But like, cause I'm not a circus goer, I don't really believe in the concept of like the circus.
yeah, yeah,
So like, I've never really seen a clown in real time, but I don't think I would want to.
yeah.
So
I'm
there's that.
good.
Last but not least,
Yeah, I had a dream a few weeks ago. I would say in October, and it's when I went on a retreat for Q Essence with Jordan. Shout out Jordan. And I had woken up and I wanted to like get something set up early for like with our DJ equipment to just set up for the day. And I took a nap on the couch and I got sleep paralysis like you. And it was weird because the place we were staying at was like an older space. It was like an old factory, which I subconsciously felt creeped out about, but I didn't want to acknowledge it. So when I fell asleep on the couch, I got sleep paralysis, and there was like things moving around me I didn't really care for, and I couldn't get up. So I had to remind myself, because I've gotten sleep paralysis a few times over the years. So I had to remind myself how to get out of it. So I like was like moving like my toes to like shake to like shake myself out and like wake up. But yeah, it was weird, and it took me probably like 20 minutes to wake myself up.
oh, that 20 minutes, longest
but
20
it-
minutes
but
of your
it-
life.
Exactly, because you can't move.
Y'all just
So-
be getting sleep paralysis. Like,
That's the first time I've ever had it in my life. That's why I was like so scared because I wasn't scared.
damn.
I was a little bit like apprehensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Wasn't
creeped
scared.
out. I was creeped out, but I wasn't like scared. I was just like, okay, I just gotta get out of this.
Yeah, I was like, oh nah, like can't do that.
Yeah.
Or if you try to like, I don't know if y'all tried to like say something or yell when you have it and you can't.
Gosh,
Imbecile.
wait.
I'm like,
Wait, you
nah.
too?
Yeah, I've gotten a few times. And that shit is like
The craziest thing is you feel more
just
dumb
regular.
than you look because it's like
Am I speaking? I don't.
it's like speaking without the volume on. Like, because you're trying stuff and it's just not, it's not like showing
Yeah.
up in the way like it usually does. for you.
exactly.
So,
Wow.
Okay. So 2 sleep paralysis, a drug kingpin, and a clown,
Yeah.
clown killer.
Victim. Yeah.
Victim. Yeah.
Victim of clowns.
All right. So safe to say we've all had our fair share of dreams. All right, cool. I like it. So we can jump straight into it. So first thing I wanted to talk about today is I feel like this year for me, I can say, has kind of represented just the overall shift. I feel like we've seen that perception in a lot of different areas of life and entertainment, and sports, politics. There's just a shifting of the guard, so to speak. Just the conception of the way things are perceived, ingested, taken in, and I want to kind of just start with that and speak to that, and just open floor. In terms of like, what experiences or what shifts have y'all kind of felt in your lives this year, in any capacity, big, small, personal, business?
I'd say like for me, like a general, the way that I process my own emotions, I feel like has shifted a lot this year. And with all the things we're probably going to talk about here in the media, what's normal, what's not normal, I feel like it kind of put things in my own personal life in perspective. So, for example, if things go wrong, I think in the past I probably would have relied more on other people to help navigate like, oh my God, like why is this thing happening? And I feel like this year it's kind of like realistically nobody is gonna care more than you. So you just gotta process that shit on your own. Like that's just what it is. And it sounds a bit harsh, but I feel like I feel a lot better. Like just fully digesting that lesson, like fully. Because everybody knows that, but not everybody has the ability to accept that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's like the main change for me this year.
Do you feel like you're more of a complete person because of that?
Yeah. We talk about it on the side all the time.
Yeah.
It's just
I've always been a believer of like, at the end of the day, no one's gonna care about what you want to get done more than you.
Mhm.
Like I can't expect someone to breathe the same life, energy, passion into my dreams as me. It's not their dream. It was bestowed on me to kind of carry out that dream and kind of chase it. So I've always kind of thought that way, but there's a difference in understanding that concept and actually living it.
Embodying it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I know if something happens, obviously I'm gonna pray, but even sometimes I make a mistake and don't do that. I'm just always trying to see how do I bring me and kind of save myself. And we like to say that, but when you get as an adult, like we talk about all the time, like being an adult is putting out short fires, like small fires here and there.
Yeah.
Things pop up, like things that might have devastated you 3-4 years ago. It's just another week.
Yeah.
And I think that I feel like for sure is understanding at the end of the day, being an adult, it really is you that has to kind of care for yourself and kind of take everything else you get as kind of just a support. Like you can't expect anybody to show up for you in the way you are, and when they show up, it's a blessing. It's not a right that you have.
Yeah, and don't like be like bitter about it if people can't show up because you have no idea what the person across from you is processing on their side.
They
So
gotta show up for themselves.
yep.
For sure.
So what about you guys? Any shifts in your life? Any experiences you can speak
For
to?
me, I think main one is like I feel like just life in general is slowing down. But at the same time, I think it's giving me a lot more time, like with myself, to reflect on just like, all right, actually pay attention to my movements because I feel like trying to like when you're trying to make it, it's like you're just going rapid, like you're just going. My bad, sorry. You're just going, and like you don't really have time to really like put things not even in perspective, but like no time for like hindsight.
Yeah.
Ever. Like so the fact that I was able to have like a full severance from that.
Would you say that this change for you has occurred more so in the like last quarter of the year, last half of the year, like, or do you feel like you felt that slowing down starting in like January, February of 2024?
The slowing down probably last July, cause like that was
24, 23.
23.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cause that was when like I had like situation where like the record label that I was signed to dissolved. So then like it's like everything kind of got pulled out from underneath me. So what that made me do is really think about like what I actually want in life. And that was when I was like, oh, I gotta like I have to have a relationship with my movements and not just make them because I feel like it's only because like I think it's gonna get me to where I think I should be. And I gotta have an actual relationship with the pacing of what I'm doing, or have a relationship with my choices and my movements because it'll bring you like a more spiritual connection with your pacing. And you got more reasoning, a lot more intention, and then like so yeah, I think it started from there. Like, and it just makes you process like time a lot. And yeah, I think that's what I'm just prioritizing, like time more than anything else. So yeah.
That's fair. What about you, Shaq? You quiet. And I know you got a shift coming up because I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. He's opening up a new club in New York. He's acting like he's not, and I really don't understand why he's not. So, what shifts have you experienced this year that you could speak to?
The biggest shift is probably my line of work. Just I've always worked since I could legally. Retail, service industry, and this is like my first year being my own boss. And if not, then doing like freelance stuff and just going from definitely a change in discipline, like having to essentially make my own hours, still be responsible for the work I have to get done, because I'm not going to get written up if I'm late, if I'm taking too long to do something. I have to kind of hold myself accountable in that regard. So I would say that's the biggest shift.
Yeah, sure. I feel like being your own boss always sounds good, and it's like a hustle culture that is like been popular for maybe the last decade, but nobody understands. I would say not. I'm not gonna say nobody, but few people understand that when you're your own boss, like now your own HR, you hold yourself accountable. Like you said, you can't write yourself up, but a lot of times you pay yourself last because you got to pay your bills, and your income is directly related to your work ethic and how you make that go. So it's kind of putting yourself in the driver's seat to that level to kind of drive your own life and your own income. And there's not every consistent bi-weekly check. I'm sure that shift is extremely eye-opening in like how you understand the way the world works.
Absolutely, 100%. Like there's pros and there's cons.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have it any other way, personally.
I'm with it. Yeah. So we're speaking about shift, and like I started off saying, there's a lot of shifts in a lot of different industries, and I want to say like the next one I want to get into is sports, right? I feel like this year has really been the year of women's sports. We've seen Caitlin Clark, we've seen Angel Reese, we've seen Juju Watkins. That's just three off the top of my head, but we're really starting to see a different perception of how women's sports is respected, the investments going into it, the eyeballs on it, and just how the masses are responding to it. So I guess what I want to ask you all is, why do you think that shift is happening now? Because when I just look into it, I'm like, it hasn't been a shortage of talent. We've had Brittany Griner, we've had Lisa Leslie, we've had stars in multiple areas of women's sports. And the U.S. women's soccer team, like #1 in the world for a long time. There's women athletes across the board. Is there a reason you feel like in women's sports now we're kind of seeing a push, namely in college basketball and WNBA? Like, why do you feel we're seeing that today as opposed to a few years ago?
Well, I'm not too into sports like I used to be, but like a general answer to that question is that I honestly feel like this is happening in multiple industries, where we just have a shift of highlighting very talented and well-deserved women. As for why, I'm not sure exactly why, but the only reason I could guess is probably that, while there's women are dominating fields in the public eye, like sports, music especially, there's also people behind the scenes that are taking up positions to be able to put these well-deserved women on a pedestal, if I had to guess. And they're doing the Lord's work because, give these women their flowers. Seriously.
It's not easy. I would say it's probably a buildup of things. I would say from the conversations that we have on the side, I feel like you guys probably more well-versed in this, but it's just a buildup of things from what I can tell. Like Shek is saying, people getting hired in positions and doing the Lord's work, doing the groundwork behind the scenes so they can plot out for something 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road. So what we see now, it may appear like it's coming out of thin air, but I feel like this is years and years and years of work. And then good conversations, good negotiations. But
and even to the point of kind of highlighting women across the board, there is, I would say, a new push to kind of highlight women excellence in a way that is, I would like to feel like, is beyond performative. I mean, it may have started that way, but now we're seeing like, no, people are really showing up to support women's kind of content. Like not even just like, I want to say maybe podcast, media. I feel like you can't really go anywhere and not see a prominent woman in that space. Like I would say like every time I see on ESPN, can't remember the last name of the sisters, but that they're always, I've always seen them. I think it's Malika and something else. They're
Malika
always
Andrews.
Andrews. And then even before then, you had I can't remember this woman's name. Kind of got in some trouble, but she like brown red hair or something like that. She used to always cover the NBA Finals. Something Nichols.
Rachel Nichols.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's just these voices of kind of women dominating spaces, and you have Taylor Brooks.
Yeah.
You have I can't remember her name.
You have.
She has a podcast with Taylor Brooks.
Is it
Joy Taylor?
Joy Taylor.
Joy Taylor.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
just
yeah.
have all these names and faces that are in these industries, and now I'm happy like the work they've been doing can now be highlighted in a way that gives them really the respect and the kind of push, the economic support that I would feel like they need. So why would you, I know we're kind of saying now that like this has been happening, but in terms of social media has always been like a reason that these things kind of be elevated. And when I think of why couldn't it have happened before, I kind of think that oddly enough, I think there's like a trickle down effect of like the social climate of everything. Like in the last few years, how we're kind of like going back and checking everything that kind of doesn't make sense. Like, and it started with like COVID, and I feel like the social unrest that happened there. We went to first started with race, and then now we're starting with, in some points, ageism. Now we're getting to misogyny and like kind of gender based situations. And I feel like now that's why we're like, okay, we have women's sports. There's all of these things that are kind of jumbled, and I feel like we're just trying to course correct. And I'm not sure how right we're getting it, but I do think we're doing a little bit better at some things than we weren't before.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, like even to what you guys are saying, I think like the intention from whether it be like the business minds, the corporate minds, like the social leaders, like you have to have like real intention with that, especially with like pushing women forward, because like certain things just don't make like a lot of sense. Like even how like women were allowed to have bank accounts. It's kind of like you're working against that, but like in different industries, different realms, where it's just like there's structures that were built against it. So you have to be intentional to, even if things seem like, oh, like this kind of seems like, you know, everybody's doing this because for the sake of like having this conversation, but like it's needed though, because there were structures already built against it. And then also even in like basketball specifically, I think what the women are, I think they were doing better than men, like within the sport itself, is like a lot more star matchups in women's college basketball, a lot more storylines, because that's what plays in the marketing the most, is like how you're able to build star matchups. Like, and I think that's something that the men's side lost, because you got the development of like, even dating back to like a Brandon Jennings, right? Like a Brandon Jennings saying like, oh, like I'm gonna go play overseas, like I'm not going to college basketball. How that trickles down to how you have like G League, and how certain players are like, I'm not going to college. I already know I'm playing basketball, so I'm not gonna go to college. So what that does is like it removes stars where you're supposed to get those Wednesday night, Thursday night matchups where you have like a John Wall versus like a Blake Griffin, or I don't even know if that's like the same year, but you just have those like players that you're like, oh, okay, like I may not know the school, but I know this player, like I've been hearing about them. And that's happening way more on the women's side. So it's like, that's why you get like the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark storylines, and a lot more like, and the stars are more spread out. Like it used to really be like UConn women's basketball, but now it's like recruiting has opened up where you have South Carolina is a great program now. Like you got, she plays for Notre Dame, but she's also from Jersey. I think you just have a lot more star dynamic in women's ball. I think it's coming back to the men's side, really like having programs built out, but that just helps like the marketing and everything. So, and it speaks to like, I think it speaks to like women's dynamic too, right? Because I think even in artistry, like there's a lot more women artists that are doing full on performances when they're on that stage. Like they're actually performing, they're actually like having a full like get up as far as like styling. Like they're not just going up there with like 30 dudes and like shiesty masks and just think and not even performing the record. Like I think it's just the requirement to do more sets it up. So like, you know, that's kind of just like a natural just like circumstance. So
I think the next thing I want to touch on that I'm kind of excited to talk about is AI. I feel like everybody's kind of been, it's the new thing. You have your Gemini, you have your Chat TBT,
Tupac.
you have, you know, Tupac, Tupac, you know, he is We do have, he's back making music for some songs. So it's just interesting to see how people leverage AI. Like I was just talking before, AI has essentially been my new administrative assistant. If I'll kind of put something into AI to kind of maybe make it sound a little bit more uniform than I would say it. And I think it's just been an exceptional tool because you always think you speak professionally until you ask ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And then they tell you, yeah, no, you're not
You're
what you
illiterate.
think you are.
Right?
Yeah. Yo, illiterate, third grader literature level.
Right.
So I think it's just interesting to see how kind of people leverage it. And I think what I wanted to ask you all is how do you feel about like how AI is progressing? Like are you guys in the camp of iRobot, or do you think it's a tool that can help push us forward and like kind of bettering society as a whole, or maybe in between?
AI to me is like overall concerning. Obviously, it's unavoidable whether you decide to use platforms like ChatGPT or not. AI is integrated into so many things that we use online, and it has for quite some time now before this sort of boom of global perception that it's had. But what concerns me is the effects that it has on the economy and the effects that it has on certain people of different fields.
Yeah.
I think that, with the country that we live in, the world that we live in, the goal is to just make things as easy as possible for us to do. For example, you have websites like Shein that make it very easy for you. To, get clothes. And obviously that has its effects on the economy, has its effects on like artists that are making clothes that are getting ripped off. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So AI is doing that exact same thing. And one example I can use is like artists. You'd have to
just say what you want to say.
Yeah.
You'd have to pay somebody to, make an image for you that you wanted, but now for free, or a very small price, you can type it in and it'll get created for you, and you already see it on ads, like in the subway, like you see the messed up fingers, like they're using AI now. And
the eyes.
Would you ever use AI in a song?
In a song?
Yeah.
No. Okay. No, I wouldn't. But the thing is, I probably already am. That's the thing. Like,
but then why do you hate Drake then? If you already are.
Not the way he used it, but anyway, I'm saying that I probably already am because AI again is integrated in the things that we use already. Mm-hmm. For example, like I'm probably using a synthesizer that uses AI in ways that I can't even possibly explain. Yeah. But that's not what we're talking about. We're obviously talking about things like ChatGPT and what's the other one? Gemini, things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, to reel it back, the economy, what it's doing to what it's doing to the environment, because it apparently uses a lot of energy.
I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah, in ways that I honestly need to do more homework on, but apparently like it's bad for the environment. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't speak too much into it, but obviously it's something that we should be more aware of.
Yeah.
So sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, for me, with AI, it's like, my issue is like the accelerationism, I think that's how you say it, aspect of it. Like if you're trying to push technology to the peak, till like we explode ourselves, that's when I start feeling weird about AI. But it's unavoidable, like Shek said, and I feel like it's either get with it or get lost. If you want to be stuck in 2002 listening to It's Hot in Here, enjoy that, but we exist in current times.
Yeah.
If you like, you have to like, it's the truth.
You have
to. You can't get left behind. And I think that I'm trying my best to embrace it. I don't want to be too negative, but there are a lot of negatives with AI. I can't even lie. But I'm trying to embrace it. I'm making it my new Google. I don't even Google things anymore. I put it in ChatGPT and it just chunks all of the information and gives me the most accurate information, but I still go back and double check it. And I have received a lot of benefits in my personal life from using just AI featured technology. So
Even
um,
Google now, it has an AI
For
on
last,
its
I feel
own.
like I don't know if it was maybe 1 to 2 years, but like you'll ask Google something, and the very first thing you'll see is
Yep.
the AI generated responses,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then you'll
Yep.
start to
yeah,
see
that has that.
Google
Everything.
search.
Yeah.
And it's funny though because I think like AI kind of jumped the line to me because I think there was a point where Instagram and Twitter started trying to transition into being more Google based, where you didn't have to put at names. You could put actual events like election results, or you could put like World Cup into those search engines. And I think they were kind of trying to creep into those search engines like Google, Yahoo, Bing space. But then AI kind of just pushed them back to the line. 'Cause even though those things use AI, like if I really want a question, I'm not going to Instagram to ask it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to Google or I'm gonna go to ChatGPT.
I don't really think there's many things that AI can't touch or technology in general. Like there's like a
Yeah.
machine that can do lashes now. Like
Wait,
I
for
don't.
real?
Yes,
Lashes is nuts.
lashes, massages. Like yeah, technology is taking over. Be careful, guys. I don't know.
I think like even just I'll bring up I'll bring this up first. Is like I think just those like micro like situations where it's like someone pretending to be somebody else, like something like that can just shift not only like bigger like situations, but also just like literally someone pretending to be somebody's parent, like and confusing a kid. Like I think there needs to be like a middle ground as much as it's just like running rampant, but like there has to be a middle ground where we collectively prioritize like regulation. And I think
But who would do that though?
it would have to be like each industry. Like I think there's got to be, I don't know if it would be like guilds or just like
I
certain
feel like
groups that
that would be asking them to do something they already don't do without AI. So if you give them more power, more ability, more technical expertise, because it's like you asking the music industry to govern itself. It doesn't. I mean, it won't. I would say. Like you ask sports to govern themselves. They don't. Not to the way that like would make us feel comfortable.
yeah.
So I guess I don't know. I think AI is starting to become a monster that you can either use or kind of be consumed by. But I feel like at some point that choice will no longer be ours.
They govern though. I feel like even in music, like sampling, something like that is like that had to go through a whole process where like people didn't understand like the real essence of it, the real use of it to like shorten the gaps of just like the economic gap, even sampling doing that. It was just more so about understanding there'd be like conversations instead of just like, oh, I'm about to sue you, I'm about to sue you, I'm about to sue you. It's like, all right, yeah, but like let's understand what this thing is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing about AI is like we kind of just letting it happen to us in a way when we do have structures like to regulate things, and it's just about like taking the time out to have like the conversations.
What I will say is that it honestly seems like it's a trial and error thing. I think what will happen inevitably, well, no, not even inevitably, what is happening with AI is that it's integrated into a field. The people of that field, they get affected, they boycott and stop producing, and then necessary changes have to be made for that industry to stay intact. You saw it with the actor strike or the writing strike. Even with music, I'm sure that there's been things in place to make sure that you're protecting the voices of artists, especially big ones. I mean, it's gonna be something that, like, if it's a real problem for the industry, the best thing to combat it is to literally
Pitchfork.
pitchfork.
So like picket and I think you're
Picket,
speaking to
picket.
like
Yeah,
picket
whatever.
and sign.
Yeah.
But I think to that point, right? Like, let's say we're all artists, right?
Mhm.
Artists historically haven't like I've never seen a show of artists come together in a unified state to kind of instill change the way the actors have.
Yeah.
And to that point, right? To me, the only way something would change on that level in the music scene is if the people who sign the checks, who are responsible for the bottom lines, have a problem. Because to me, when I look into the field, I think that those are the only parts of music, the only components and the only entities of music who have been unified behind the scenes. Because we talk about, like, we grew up in the streaming era. There was a time where there was no streaming era. They got together and decided this is what it is, and everybody had to follow suit. So you have one side who will be more affected by AI, which is the artist, and everybody on that side, not unified. Then you have big business unified behind the scenes. So to me, in all of these industries, I'm thinking the people who make the money are the ones who would be regulating, but the regulating they would do would only impact them positively. So I just don't see how, like, I could see, like, right now, because even now, like, I would say the government, it would be a perfect time for them to step in and start some AI regulation board. But to me, they might just be looking at the money to be made. We also live in America. It's a capitalist country. It might be better for them to not let it be regulated, especially, you know, who's POTUS right now. It wouldn't make sense. So I'm just curious to see, like, how it looks like moving forward, because I also don't think people should just wait and expect the government to save them in any capacity in that regard.
And there's just some industries that there's just not much you can do. Like I said, when it comes to visual artists, unless you have like a very strong business background and you're aware of the ways that you can protect yourself and your art, that's going to be a trial and error on the artist side. Because a lot of these AI programs have been caught like actually infringing the art of artists to make their images. And it's important to know, okay, if I can prove that my art has been plagiarized for this machine, what are ways that I can, like, what can I do legally about this? And, you know, sometimes people are just, you know, they don't, and it's the same that you have to think about that because you're really just doing what you love. But in an age where things can get stolen like that, and if you can't prove it, and even sometimes when you can, it's like you're still shit out of luck. There's just some industries that are going to get forever changed by AI, and those people, unfortunately, will bear the brunt of that. And there's nothing we could do because it's just getting stronger every year.
And so we're speaking to music and the industry of, you know, the business of making music. And I feel like this year has been one of the more historical years in music from my perspective. We obviously have Drake and Kendrick beef, and then we also have, you know, the situation with Diddy and what's the kind of connotation of who he is, the domestic abuse, the laundry list of accusations. And when I look at that, it's kind of a conversation and a question I ask myself, like, from the beginning of time, like, because you have Diddy, you have R. Kelly, you even have Trey Songz, you have all these other people who haven't really been called to the carpet in the same capacity yet. But when these things become set in stone, proven in court, and sort of immortalized throughout time, right? How do we now look at the body of works that they've contributed to the space? Does that change for any of you? Like, is R. Kelly still R. Kelly, not who he is as a man, but do you erase who he was from history when you look at music? I'm not asking you what you listen to. I'm saying, do you erase his contributions to the space because of the man he was?
On his art, I think you, like, everyone has their moral decision of whether or not they gotta listen to it or not. Like, everyone has to decide that on their own. I feel like the music, and not to say that music is the only art where it's like this is like an extension of the person. Yeah. So I think that's, like, I guess that's the thing you gotta, like, take into account is, like, all right, this is an extension of this person that we see in this light. And that's why I don't know if I can listen to the music. But it's also looking at the music like, all right, you kind of got to extract and reference from there. Maybe you're not referencing the things said or around there, but you're referencing just, like, technical things that you're hearing. But I don't know if it erases, like, that, because I don't think it's the first art form. Like, music is not the first art form where the morality of the artist is, like, questioned. Yeah. That's not to excuse anybody, but it's just to show that, like, things are gonna exist. Like, especially the more we're putting more things into clouds and not just on the museum wall anymore. So it's just like it's gonna exist. You kind of gotta make sure you're researching about also the artists themselves and seeing like, all right, how is this an extension of who this is? So.
No, I mean, you're totally right. I think that it is what it is. Bad people make good art all the time. Happened since the dawn of time. I think that there's ways to acknowledge their contributions. I mean, we don't really have a choice but to acknowledge their contributions because we live through them. There's people that have been birthed from. There's great artists that have been birthed from terrible people, as far as like being put on. And in no way could I say that these contributions that these bad people have made weren't legendary or didn't contribute to what we do or how we listen and how we perceive art now. But I think that there's ways to acknowledge that without celebrating them still.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if somebody did something really, really bad, I can't in good faith still listen, indulge in their art. It's just not, just because it was good, you know? I think that it obviously is case by case, person by person. I don't think that there's some sort of giant rule. I mean, people try to make it seem like there is, but it really just goes based on how the art has affected you. And I don't find that there's an artist on this planet that once it gets to a certain threshold, because you know, all these things are relative.
Yeah.
But I can't find myself still indulging in somebody's art once they've reached a certain threshold of immorality.
Yeah.
You know, if we're getting into the abuser territory, if we're getting into the SA territory, if we're getting into the sex rank territory, then we've had a lot more things to worry about than celebrating their legacy and what they've done for the space. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like an unfortunate part of the way that media exists today. We kind of we don't have the ability of choice anymore. Like we can't choose what we find out about people. Mm-hmm. So there's so many artists that I love and I won't name, but then you hear, oh, they did this to this person, or they have this relationship with this person, or they abandoned this person. It's like, I can't listen to the music with just fresh ears anymore. Now I'm thinking about how you did this to your sister, or the mother of your child, your closest friend. And I don't care for that part of media now. Or even to the AI conversation we were just having, like the consumer has no idea that majority of the stuff we're consuming now is AI produced. So yeah, artists can fight for their paintings to not be stolen or whatever, but if I'm scrolling through my phone, I'm not gonna know this is AI unless I really sit down and like look at it. If it's not a picture of a person,
Sometimes they don't even care too.
or even what you're listening to, and they're being really, really tricky on how they start to sneak in different tracks that are AI produced or images. Like we're not even noticing it. It's mixed in. So I don't know. Like I don't know.
Even to like the mixing in of like authentic art to AI art. I remember like
to bring it back. But.
Yeah, Marvel Avengers. I want to say the second movie, which was like I think the best, not the second installment of the Thanos like segment of that. Infinity Wars. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So there was this. They said for Robert Downey Jr., they used AI to kind of crease out his wrinkles because it was showing his age. And I remember I was reading that when I was doing like some LinkedIn learning thing on AI. And it was like, there's been this big push of AI now, but it's like, we've been using AI for like another probably decade. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We just kind of didn't even know. Yeah. So it's interesting, like when you look about how it's folded into music and it's folded into all these other industries that like, to me, it's like, to the point I was making before, regulation could have happened. And it doesn't seem there's a care to, I would say, because it's still more about like, okay, what does the consumer care about? What does the consumer care about? Quality. And the way we're kind of ingesting and interacting with it. So if there's no drop off from us, then there's kind of no reason really to regulate it. Yeah. And then when we speak to the point about, because what we're really talking about is separating the art from the artist, right? And I feel like, to Shaq's point, there's some acts that kind of make it impossible to, where it's like, it makes it like we have to separate the art from the artist. But then it's like, okay, I don't ever have to listen to you again, but I have to respect their contributions. Maybe not in a public forum, but I'm aware that you did this, and we kind of just don't talk about it.
But I think that's like, I feel like that's where, like, you have to have those conversations, because then the consumer just stays like a consumer, like just in its rawest form, and there's no like processing like what I could actually be taking in as far as like whether it be a product or music. And I think that's what affects culture, is just like I'm just firstly buying shit, or like I'm just listening to this, not thinking about like what I'm listening, right? And I think it goes back into like if there's more conversations around um like the artists that are behind these songs or these works, I think that also can shift culture in a way where that changes like maybe not the artists right now, but it changes like the artists that are like 10 years younger than us, 20 years younger than us, and how they approach in making art. Because like if you give you a bug, is like a lot of people, especially like probably in this last decade, we're just trying to make music to get a bag. And if you really think about just like what that, how that dictates what you talk about, like on a record, and how that in a sense like adds to a certain calculation and in the culmination of culture, like everything's too intertwined to think like one thing is isolated. Like even I even think like the opening of AI is tied to like what people talk about on messaging and how people are trying to get a bag, because now it's just about a volume game.
Hmm.
And I think because of that, like AI gets like a that opens like the door. It opens like a slither a little bit for AI to come in and be like, okay, if this is the volume game that we're playing right now, like why don't I make like Joe Smith's album at a higher clip? Yo, just make 10 records and we'll just make the other 10 records using this. And everything just kind of opens up from there. And that's where it becomes like the regulation has to start from the artist though. Like the community of artists. So like again, like the government's not gonna do it, the consumer's not gonna do it. Like you got consumers talking every day about like, oh, like this person's in this bad contract, this person's in this bad contract. You don't buy music though. You know what I'm saying? So in a way that's like directly impacts like I kinda gotta, not me, I'm just saying like an average artist that don't come from nothing is like, I'm gonna sign a deal. Like no one's buying music. Like
But when you think about it, because you touched on a point, the consumer, right? Like, what age do people really start caring about the quality of how music is made? If it's still kind of, if it still satisfies the need that they came to the music for. Like, if I'm a consumer, right? I don't know what age I started caring about where the products I was making, where they were coming from, the morality of who was making them. And
Yeah.
I would say these days it's probably more social media driven than not. Like when I was in high school and we went to go buy uniforms, unless the owner of the store was a downright racist, I'm not researching that the owner or the manufacturer's story. So you were speaking to like the consumer, like kind of playing more of an active role in the consumption of music. But it's like, if what if the consumer doesn't care? Like for example, talking about the Drake and Kendrick beef, which we've been talking about since it happened, right? Myself included. Drake is still in all of our top five for Spotify rap, but there's also songs saying certified pedophile, right? So it's like to the point of separating the art from the artist, and he's called that, but there's no real proof that he is that, right?
Yeah.
But the connotation is heavy.
yeah.
Do we really care about the quality or the sort of like the quality of who's making the content we're ingesting? Like, because it kind of seems like we pick and choose.
Feels like
I think that's
too many cooks in the kitchen kind of thing. Like
yeah.
everybody, I don't know, everybody should have their opinion, but I don't think that everybody needs to have a public opinion, if that makes sense. So it's like I don't. Everybody I walk into the street, what do you think about this person? What do you think about this person? Like that's gonna be too much information. So I don't know how to properly regulate
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah. I wanted to answer your question real quick. I think that like with how things are progressing with social media, with AI, with the talks of regulation and the talks of not regulating, I think it creates a bunch of problems that can't be solved. For example, when we were loosely talking about how like the perception of people that make art, but the window to a person's personal life is very big and continues to grow with, again, people just kind of really outing themselves. Like, you'll see exactly how well or mentally stable your favorite artist is just by following their tweets. If they tweet a lot, like, you can tell, when people are like legitimately having mental breakdowns, whereas before there was really no platform to do so unless you were in front of a camera. You could still see it, but so it's like, okay, at that point, now consuming, quote unquote, is no longer just about consuming that person's art, but consuming them as a whole. And that's just not it's not realistic for us to be able to properly categorize these people, because we're going to have mixed feelings about everybody that is making art.
But they also don't have a choice, though, because I feel like whoever is managing these people is making them have a bigger social media presence. So it's like, even if they try to like keep things in the tuck and just put out the art, I feel like if you're trying to get to a certain level, people are going to advise you to bare your soul on the internet, post you out at the mall, post you with your friends, post you twerking sometimes, even if you don't want to. If you want to post 100%. It, that's fine. But like, you kind of don't have that choice
literally
sometimes.
And I think, like, to kind of bring this all together, to kind of keep the theme of like shifting in life, and kind of as we enter our last point, we speak about AI and women emerging not only in sports but just in all industries, and we're speaking about music and just cultural occurrences that happened this year, from the beef to the cases, Diddy, even trying to wrap Jay-Z in it, like all these accusations, some with a lot of proof with Diddy and some with no proof in terms of Jay-Z's connection. But we're also now speaking to moral dilemmas. And I think very recently we kind of witnessed and partook in an election where we kind of, for lack of a better term, decided which moral dilemmas we wanted to lean in on in relation to the voting public and which ones we didn't. Yeah. So you have the VP Kamala, who a lot of misrepresentation of who she was and kind of who she is in relation to how she was heavy on crime and who she is as, whether she's a woman of Indian descent, whether she's a black woman. You have all these AI-generated content that's kind of just, I would say, disrespectful to not only women, but someone who's sitting in office. Then you have, President Trump, who won the election, but also has said quite a few things and has had a very, I would say, marred past morally, but he still won. So I would say the question I have to you all is, when you look at the way the campaigns have, as of late, have happened, the last 2, the last 3 or 4, what engagement and like voter engagement and the politics and the way we have seen those campaigns run, why do you feel there was such a shift in the last 3 to 4? Like, if you look at the comparison from like John McCain, or was it Romney versus Obama or McCain versus Obama? Like, why do you feel like elections are run seemingly way different than what we grew up on before we were adults?
The world is changing, like just the way we perceive everything. We're 8 years ago, kids weren't processing information the way the kids are now. And we're a generation, not even a generation, we're a community of people that are suffering from information overload. So there's a different way to market to those people, which is probably why we saw some of the campaign choices that we did, in all honesty, because it's like, how else? For the most part, things are changing rapidly. Just the way we perceive information, like we're being marketed to in ways that, like, if you would have told me that 10 years ago, I would have laughed at you. But it's like, that's how you reach people.
So do you think the marketing is catering to us, or we're dictating the marketing?
That's a great question. Probably both.
It's a mixture.
Probably both, yeah.
Because to me, I know a lot of people are like, oh, like they show you what you want to see. I don't think that's been happening for some time. I feel like once they realized what we wanted to see, they found a way to show us what they wanted us to see. And I think that's why we kind of see a marketing in a different way, a lot of subconscious antics, appealing to our better natures, but also our worst natures at the same time. Like a lot of smoke and mirrors. And then, we say, oh, you hear the music you want to hear. But it's like, do you really hear the music you want to hear? Or do you hear the music you're told you want to hear? like even the way I feel like we're marketed to across the board from what it used to be. Like there's like a lot of messages that I won't go into detail in saying that are just not hidden in the way that they used to. It's a lot more comfortability in just saying things like
Outright.
yeah, just throwing things at the wall and being like, you figure it out. Where back in the day, it was more curated and a lot people were more more comfortable. I would say they were more comfortable of being aware of the lines. Where now there's no lines. I'm gonna say something, take it how you want it, and my audience will find me. And I think we see that across industries. And it's like, okay, so am I dictating the marketing or are you dictating the marketing to me?
I don't know. I feel like the echo chamber goes deep. Not gonna lie. Like, when it comes down to like the algorithms, which is mainly AI, like they show me like pretty like left wing stuff. And then sometimes when I'm like doing my own research, and I guess they confuse me for a right wing guy, like they'll send me the occasional like Trump TikTok, and it's like night and day. Like night and day versus somebody like that is all about that side of politics. Like, I think that when it comes to these like algorithm models in social media, I think they're pretty good at accurately assessing what somebody wants to see, mainly on like TikTok and stuff. But when it comes to like music, that's like a whole different conversation because there's a million times where I got shown a song that I thought I was gonna like, and I'm just like,
So you think those algorithms are like purely like based off your likes?
maybe not purely. I think that it really just depends on the person. They probably give you room to throw other different types of stuff at you, but for the most part, the reason why, or at least a large portion of why we're addicted to social media is because they're like showing us stuff that we're most likely to engage with.
I think it's like personal discernment though, because I think like I view you as somebody that is pretty. You know what you like, and you know what's right, you know what's wrong. So if you're somebody who's a little bit in the middle or who's maybe not as sharp, I can see how the algorithm can show you what you think you like, and then slowly start to shift. And then now you're being directed towards something as opposed to somebody such as yourself who may be like, I don't like that. I'm gonna say not interested and get this out of here.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Not everybody has that.
So to the point of you saying like the algorithm is like genuine, right? I think the point that I'm making is I feel like I'm not sure if the marketing is based on what we want or it's like, okay, like you were just saying, you like this, but sure you don't like this? You sure? I mean, it's kind of hype. Like I'm talking about content, period. Like I could like content that's just about sports. And then one day it shows me cooking and it's like that cake's kind of good. You click out of it. Then 2 weeks later, it's like, listen, that's a souffle. You click out of it. But then it's, all right, listen, like, yo, chocolate souffle. And then it just keeps showing me something that I said I wasn't interested in. So it's like, okay, is this my algorithm or are you trying to change my algorithm?
And you start thinking it's divine.
And you start thinking it's and I think we all have that friend. Yo,
Never is,
girl,
yeah.
I just had this experience and all of a sudden I'm seeing TikToks about divine timing. No, they're trying to brainwash you.
They hear you.
And the timing, and I know everybody's like, oh, like it sounds like, oh, this is the right time. But it's like, is it the right timing or is it just the algorithm trying to kind of change your thought on certain things? And I think this can happen in any genre. It's not just, I'm not saying it's like we're trying to change people's narrative on what they're attracted to. I see this in every kind of category you can think of. So I just wonder that, I don't know what the marketing is, but I feel like now it's more so curating our own lists or playlists, so to speak, rather than we're doing the curation ourselves. I think it's like a mixture. It's not just what it was like. The algorithm I feel like is a facade. I don't think it's purely based on our likes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I guess in music per se, I do feel like if I'm just speaking to like something like Spotify, I feel like that is more so than not like based off like what you're like typing in, what you're actually like intentionally looking for. But I think to what Britt said about just having like discernment, and I think a lot of the information is probably like just like given to us.
Yeah.
And like I don't think there's a lot of people that like spend like days like researching. I think it's just kind of like we're receiving like headlines, and getting trapped in that. And I think I mean, even to the thing about just like information overload, right? It's like scrolling through like Twitter, and the way your like mental and emotional frequencies get pulled in so many directions, where it's like you'll see like maybe like a campaign ad, and then like a John Moran highlight, and then you'll see a twerk video, and then you'll see literal genocide, and then I think that kind of plays into it in a way where like you're not.
Hold on, which one did you watch the longest stuff?
I mean, you gotta ask them, like, you know what I'm saying? But
sound like
That's not my algorithm.
Yeah, I was like,
I don't see
my
John
bad.
Morant's nor the twerks.
Let me not project. My bad.
You know what though? It does make me think though, because nowadays we're starting to see marketing not just towards a consumer, but also a creator. Because I think like the creator is the new consumer, and they're like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're creating ways for you to invest in the platform as a creator because they know you'll spend more time on it, looking at analytics, doing research on the For You page. Like, I think that as far as that goes, there might be some sort of incentive to push certain stuff towards you.
Yeah.
Because, like here is this selfie, like, here is it again. You sure you don't want this? Because like if you really look at maybe not a majority, but if you look at people that use social media, they, are starting to realize that they can get something out of it if they work hard. Whether it's like, it doesn't have to go as far as like getting like brand deals and stuff, but maybe I'm funny and I get a lot of retweets and stuff. Like you see the people are on social media not really just to share what they got going on, but also to like have a personal brand.
Business of fame, I feel like too.
Yes,
There's like a business in that now where it's like
exactly, yeah.
Like I don't know, like it's, like when they be talking about why is this person setting up like a stand at Target and showing themselves like shopping, it's like that whole thing is really interesting because
There's a market
to
for
what
it.
you said about like pushing things onto the creators is like, okay, now like who are the creators right now, right? Like it's not just not anybody that's like at the MoMA, or it's not people just dropping albums. It's literally the person that's like, I'm gonna take a selfie of myself every day. I'm gonna record myself like getting ready. Like
Don't get me wrong, there's a market for it.
Yeah,
And those things,
it has to be. It's
those effects
right now.
those effects on people, like those, not to diminish like the lifestyle brand accounts, because it does offer like comfortability to a lot of people, but like at the same time, like everything, the business. I like that you said the business of fame, because I feel like that's a real thing, and people, the algorithm, these companies are definitely preying on people that have social media that are in that category, 100%.
But the consumer and the creator, I feel like, are kind of built off of each other,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to be a consumer to understand what it feels like to get that dopamine hit. Mm-hmm. So when you start creating your own stuff, you're like, oh no, I love that feeling. So you start paying Instagram to get extra analytics and all this kind of stuff, and it's like, I'm paying for my numbers. This is insane.
Yeah, it's literally a drug. Literally the newest drug is that dopamine hit that you get when you get like that post that hits 1 million.
So y'all all pay for analytics?
No, not paying for analytics. No.
I don't know if you.
No.
Y'all pay for like the pro of like where they give you like the extra.
Absolutely not.
No. The only thing I'm paying for is SoundCloud Pro, but that's like you have to, if you're putting music on there, you kind of have to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I think y'all was gonna actually answer. I was just joking, but
well, that's like just the standard for anybody.
Yeah,
I'll pay for
I have
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud Pro too, but I don't know if I'd pay for analytics to that degree unless I was a business. But I understand the value in it, but at this point, it wouldn't be.
I mean, you can for websites and stuff like that. Like if you have a site that you have to retain that information, you kind of have to pay.
That's why like the business perspective makes sense. But yeah, I think just to kind of round it all back up, in terms of what we're looking at and just what we've seen in these different areas and industries we talked on, sports, AI, culture, music, and just the shifts that they've all felt, and kind of like in some earlier stages, some latter stages, what that will look like moving forward. It will be interesting to see what that means for the new year and what that kind of means for us as consumers. And I think we have to, I think, remain vigilant as, as much as we can, because I think it's a perfect storm where we're consumers, but life still happens to us. And I think that's where I think that's where like the producers and the sellers kind of, us flying under the radar allows them to kind of operate in this unregulated space, especially where we live, where capitalism is the main kind of underlying mantra of like the political policies that we experience. I think it's important to kind of still kind of take a step out of your daily life every once in a while to kind of stick your head above water if you can. But even that is kind of like I would say it's a privilege. So I kind of say that with caution. But I think in terms of that, I think I'm kind of done with the topics. I have nothing more to state or add. But if anybody else, the floor is open before we round it up.
Yeah, I was oh, sorry. I did want to mention one other thing.
No, go ahead.
The AI too. Like I think there's a interesting dynamic of it where like we ourselves are that. And I think like the way some people operate around like I guess their approach to like referencing or copying or adopting, whether that be like art styles or even lifestyles. Like I think that is like a way. I think that kind of also opened the door to AI because like people have already carried out that ideology, like in their own lives. So it's like we have to understand kind of like what are our like human AI decisions that we're making.
I feel like when you put that power into people's hands, it's really just a matter of if they care of the consequences or not. Like I think that when you're in a world of people that are getting things quicker and faster than ever before, like do they have what it takes morally to take a step back when in most cases they don't have to? Like nobody's checking them. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the biggest dilemma.
I don't know. We got to get to it. I think the only way to I always say, you got to save yourself.
Yeah.
I don't think help is coming. But I think that's all I got. You got anything to add, Quinn? Or?
No.
All right, cool. Well, thank y'all for wrapping up the year with us. And that's it. This is ITV, and we will catch you in the next one. Peace.